relax. I shan't use that pistol. But I'm afraid. Yes, afraid sometimes. It all goes red. I want to hurt her, to stick a knife into her, to put my dear little pistol close against her head, and then just press with my finger. Oh! The exclamation startled him. What is it, mademoiselle? She turned her head and was staring into the shadows. Someone standing over there. He's gone now. Hercule Poirot looked around sharply. The place seemed quite deserted. There seems no one here but ourselves, mademoiselle. He got up. In any case, I have said all I came to say. I wish you good night. Jacqueline got up too. She said almost pleadingly, "You do understand that I can't do what you ask me to do." Poirot shook his head. "No, but you could do it. There shook his head. I don't believe she'll use that now. She might have done so earlier, but I believe it's got past that. She's now spiteful, trying to take it out of us both. Poirot shrugged his shoulders. It may be so, he said doubtfully. It's Linnet I'm worrying about, declared Simon, somewhat unnecessarily. I quite realise that, said Poirot. business. Poirot shook his head. You have not seen the end of it yet. No, the end is not yet at hand. I am very sure of that. I say, Monsieur Poirot, you're not